speaking of Star Wars, content championship time.
Yes.
Andor versus Return of the Jedi.
I hate this.
This is going to be about as fun as a prostate exam.
What a fucking what a thing to choose.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I wouldn't know. I'm not had one.
At your age.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
I
was waiting for the
as
age
always,
joke.
we have 6 categories to help us get through this.
Mm-hmm.
We have personal relevance, how well has it aged, rewatchability, story, acting, and cinematography / general visual appeal.
Yes.
Would you like to get started, Horry, with your personal feelings towards each of these projects?
I mean, Return of the Jedi is the culmination of my entrance into Star Wars, let's be honest. Like, that is the classic ending of the trilogy that everyone remembers. It is what set it, and technically, without that successful trilogy and the fan base it created, we wouldn't have had Andor.
True.
So there's that to it. But then Andor, I mean, it was one of the shows we've loved to cover on this podcast. One of the better shows, like I'd say one of the top 2 shows to come out of Star Wars. And links to one of like our favorite films as well. So there's a lot there that kind of really resonates. But yeah, it's just both highlights, but in different ways.
Yeah. Andor is the best Star Wars show. And it elevates my favorite Star Wars film, Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
Andor is really, really good. Doesn't quite do it justice. I don't know. You don't watch it and feel like you're watching a sci-fi world about wizards with laser swords, but in the best way possible.
I get you.
Like, yes, there's no Jedi in this, and that does suck a little bit, but at the same time, my God, what a compelling story that makes this universe feel so much more lived in.
Yeah, I agree.
Would I care about Andor if it wasn't for the films with the wizards with laser sticks? No, of course I wouldn't. But does it make me care about that world more? Yes. I care so much more about the characters and their struggles because of shows like Andor that give the world context and make it feel more lived in and human. I can't relate to Luke Skywalker as a Jedi who learns he's special. I can relate to the story of Andor talking about all the people who are just kind of stranded in this world with these mega powerful people forcing everyone in these shit conditions that they feel like they can't do anything, and then they realize they should all band together and kill anyone who's making it difficult. I find that incredibly relatable. But then Return of the Jedi, it is the wizards with the spinny sticks that are nice bright colors, and the Ewoks and Palpatine and the lightning and the magic of it all. And it's magical. The first time you watch Return of the Jedi, or even the original trilogy, and get to Return of the Jedi, it's fucking awesome. I am a Jedi like my father before me. It's a fucking bar. They don't write them like they used to. It's crazy. I love them both so much. Star Wars is potentially the goated franchise. So yeah, that's where we're about on that. How well have they aged, Horizontal?
I mean, Return of the Jedi, people still, like, to this day look back on it. It's such a highlight. And I think, in a way, unfortunately, the trilogies that have come after it have made it age even better. As much as we wish that those trilogies were as good, if anything, they've just made us appreciate the original trilogy even more. Andor, I feel it's too soon. It's been a while, but it's still too soon to like really appreciate how that's aged. But going off how well Rogue One aged, I imagine Andor will age incredibly as well.
Yes. I cannot think of many films
Hmm.
that have aged as well as the original Star Wars trilogy.
Hmm. Lord of
So
the
for one
Rings.
franchise to do all three, well, no, because even Lord of the Rings is just coming from like the early 2000s.
True.
The latest, like Return of the Jedi, came out in '83.
Yeah.
Now, as much as we joke, that's what 10 years before you were born. 12, 95,
12, yeah.
12 years before you were born was the end of that trilogy.
And I still love it. So,
And you're now 27, 28, whatever it is, and there's more, and the universe is getting bigger, and you're having people born who are like 6, 7 years old now. There are people who were born this year who in 3 or 4, 5, 6 years time will be introduced to these films and fall in love with this universe as well. That is crazy.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the only other films that survive that long are like your all-time classics, like your Godfathers and your Goodfellas and stuff.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Like that is insane, and it doesn't look like it was made in 1983.
No. When you look at other films of that era,
Yeah,
it was it was ahead of its
the
time massively.
mind truly boggles at how well them Star Wars films has aged. And bearing in mind they are like 40 years old this year, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I don't think we've even fully begun to understand just how iconic and long lasting these films are, which is crazy that it can be around for 40 years so comfortably, and we
Yeah.
still don't fully grasp how powerful and iconic the franchise is.
Yeah. No, not wrong.
Andor, I do agree that it's a bit too early to know how well it's aging. I would say so far it's aged well.
Yes.
Um, I think the reaction to the news of Andor not coming out in Andor season 2 not making its 2024 release anymore
Mm.
tells us how well it's aged, because everyone saw
Yeah.
that news and was like, that kind of sucks, but it's understandable because we want you to cook again.
Yes.
And I think that tells you all you need to know, where fans, especially in this modern era, are like, okay, we're sad that it's not going to make the release, but I can accept that, and
Mm-hmm.
we can wait as long as it's as good as season 1.
Yeah.
Rewatchability.
Mm.
I'm gonna be a little bit harsh on Andor out the gate here.
Okay.
Bang average rewatchability. It's not even been a year.
Yeah.
It's quite an intense watch. That's not the kind of thing like a Family Guy, which is my go-to rewatch show, that I can have on my second monitor while I'm playing games. And because when
Yeah.
I want to watch Andor, I want to watch it. And if I actually want to watch something, I don't tend to forget what's happened. Therefore, I
Mm.
don't need to really watch it again.
Yeah, I get you.
Whereas Return of the Jedi, I rewatch not as regularly as I'd like to.
Mm. Agreed.
I wish I had the time to rewatch the original Star Wars trilogy more often, but like it's 6, 7 hours,
Yeah.
which isn't easy to
Yeah.
fit in.
This is the thing. I think there's moments of Andor that I have rewatched the speech,
The speeches, all of
but
the speeches,
like
give
you
me all of
say,
them.
to rewatch it all, it is it's one too early to want to rewatch it, and it is a sit down focus rewatch. I
Exactly.
think the rewatchability for Andor will go up once it's completed, and it's like you've got the whole Andor story into Rogue One because it's like a contained thing. More
Yeah.
want to kind of rewatch it as a collective. But then you have got the issue, like you say, I don't watch the original trilogy as much as I wish I did. But it is also a commitment
Yeah.
because you can't just watch episode 6.
No.
You have to watch episode 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah. It would be insane if someone was just going to want to watch Return of the Jedi. I'd be like, yeah, in 4 hours when we're done with the first two.
Yeah, no, I'll be like, no, put on episode 4.
Exactly. And that does hurt the rewatchability of it because it is intrinsically linked with the other. Someone goes, "You want to watch A New Hope?" I'm like, "Yeah, screw it."
Mm,
That means in the next month I can just sit down and watch Empire at any point because I've seen A New Hope recently
yeah.
enough. I'm allowed to do that. You've got like a it's like a cool down. You
Hmm.
can't just watch episode 5. But if you've watched episode 4, you've got like a month and a half, maybe 2 months where you can just sit down and watch episode 5 at any time. And
Mm,
then you unlock the ability to just rewatch 6.
yeah, you do.
um which does hurt it, but I do think films are intrinsically easier to rewatch than Andor,
Yeah.
or any TV series. Because Andor was what, 7 episodes?
7 or 8, I forget.
Episodes. Oh no, it's 12. We're done.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
each
yeah.
one of them was like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, you sit down and start watching Andor, I sit down and watching Star Wars first, and I can be on to the prequels before you finished.
Yeah.
Which is always going to make it more rewatchable.
This is true.
Story. This is the first one where I'm a bit more confident.
Okay.
Andor is one of the most well together, well written, and put together shows I've ever watched. A lot of the heavy lifting is done by the previous lore
Yeah.
because it gives them a time frame to work within. I accept that.
Mhm.
However, they still have to write a story that fits within that world without altering it too heavily, and also telling a compelling narrative that's not been told before, which I think makes it more impressive.
Yeah. And I actually feel like you could say, if someone hasn't seen Star Wars but understands what Star Wars is, wizards with light sticks, but like hasn't seen any of the story, they could sit down and watch Andor and not necessarily be super confused by what's going on because it's, like you say, self-contained. Whereas episode 6, like you need to watch 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Like that story only works as a trilogy.
I'm telling you right now, there are people out there who turn their nose up at Star Wars because they think they're too good for Star Wars. You trick them and give them Andor without them knowing it's set in the Star Wars universe.
They'll enjoy
They
it.
will watch it and they will think it's a high piece that's better than Star Wars. And they will probably use it and go, see, this is what Star Wars should be. Now, I'm not saying that Andor is better than base Star Wars. What I'm saying is it's that style of art that snobs will often use. Which is why I don't want to sit here and go, oh, it blows Return of the Jedi out of the water. Because we are not snobs here. This is all about nerd content. It would be dumb to be snobs about it. But I think while Return of the Jedi is a masterpiece of a story, which I adore, I do think Andor, because of what it has to work within, as well as add on to, it has more limitations and it is still around the level, if not exceeding the level of Return of the Jedi story-wise.
Yeah. I could be on board with that.
Have I used the right words there to not anger either side of the argument?
I think so. And I think most people would agree that the story alone of Return of the Jedi, yes, it's good. It gets the fairy tale ending. But it's stronger as the whole trilogy. And if you watch,
Of course,
if you never watch the other 2 parts, you are not getting the full story and you're not going to appreciate it. So
exactly. But I do think Return of the Jedi is more well written than a lot of people would give it credit for.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of like that good writing comes from the fact that George Lucas is also the director, so he can use imagery to help with the story that the words don't need to tell. Where in other stuff, the writer and director are very rarely the same person, which can sometimes mean visual cues that the writer had in their head don't make it onto the screen.
Yeah.
Acting. Now, this is where I do have a very strong opinion.
Andy Serkis.
Yes.
I know
Andy
you.
Serkis.
Yeah.
And others.
Yeah.
I forget his name. The gentleman. His sons are also actors.
I know who you mean.
Un momento, por favor, because I want to remember his name. Yes, Stellan Skarsgård. He has two
Yes.
sons who are also actors. Yeah, he is also stunning in this.
Yes.
The powerful acting performances are not normally associated with nerd media.
No.
They are giving more traditional thespian performances
Yeah.
around really traditional topics of war and humanity and all of this that is not normally associated with nerd media or Star Wars. We
Mm.
know that Star Wars has these themes baked right into it, but George Lucas, when he was writing the originals, made it palatable to
Yeah.
children so that he could, rightly or wrongly, instill in them the idea that this big, powerful empire is a bad thing. He was anti what America was doing in Vietnam. He's very public about that.
Yeah.
But he made it more palatable to people of the day.
Yeah.
In a world that we're in now where media is so much freer and people know this stuff, they need to be a bit more blunt about their message so that people get past finding out the initial message and actually think deeper about it, which
Yeah.
is what Andor does. It takes
Mm-hmm.
the idea of, yes, the world is dog shit, the government is corrupt. We'll give you that for free. Now look at what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And like the speeches of this film, I mean, you said it a minute ago when we were talking about rewatchability, they are so rewatchable.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm at work on a Friday and I'm like, no, I can get through this. You watch Stellan's speech from the episode where he gets the information from the mole, or you watch
Yes.
Andy's speech, and I just feel myself literally. I have the ability to headbutt through a brick wall with one of them playing. It is so. It is
No, yeah.
the absolute peak
The
of media.
the monologues from both Andy Serkis and Stellan, like incredible. And they hook you in, and those alone just sell that whole show.
Yes.
And they both did stellar performances as their characters.
I think acting performances are a lot easier to get recognized for when there is less nerdy magic associated with the story.
Yeah.
It is a lot more difficult to deliver very serious and well respected acting performances when you're spinning a stick that glows.
Yeah.
Like James Earl Jones managed it because he's just got such an amazing voice. And Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford did a great job of making you believe they're in this world.
Yeah.
But because it's so out there, it's a little bit difficult to really feel the emotion as much because again, it's not as relatable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Andor's a lot more grounded and a lot more relatable. You find them gritty acting performances a lot like you can feel the emotion a little bit more because you can imagine what you feel like in that situation yourself.
Yeah.
Which is why Star Wars does have its moments. But
Mhm.
Andor just has more of them and more consistently.
Yeah, I would agree.
Cinematography.
Oh, some of the shots in Andor are beautiful.
Andor is. I'm just doing a double check in my head quickly. Andor came out last year or this year? 2022, wasn't it? Yeah, 2022.
Last year.
As far as I can remember, it was the prettiest show of 2022 by a country mile. I can't think of anything else that came out last year that I was like, wow, that's pretty more so than Andor.
Yeah, I don't remember any. Nothing
Rings
like.
of Power has its moments, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's quite on the same level as consistently.
Yeah, no, I would say. I mean, the thing with Andor is it manages to have those incredible Star Wars shots and Star Wars like scenes with like the moment with the tractor beam and he's escaped.
Yeah.
Like those shots are so Star Wars, yet there's not a single lightsaber. And it's just like it embodies that world visually. And to do that without kind of some of the key things of Star Wars, like it's a pretty incredible job.
it used the key kind of cinematography cues of Star Wars with the big landscapes, the sweeping shots, the panning from space to a planet, and the following like ships as they speed overhead. It uses all these cinematography shots that are iconic to us because they are
Hmm.
prevalent throughout Star Wars. Um, but they just the scenery they've chosen is so much more beautiful, and the digital effects are so much more advanced now that they can make them look even more
Well,
realistic. You
yeah,
can bring them to life even more. Um, Andor is absolutely gorgeous,
yeah,
and it is very difficult to make an argument for Return of the Jedi here, except for the fact that the original trilogy of Star Wars, Return of the Jedi included, created, perfected, and then made public techniques that moved cinema forward.
yeah,
The original Star Wars trilogy changed filmmaking, not just in a nerd way,
yeah.
not just in a culture way, but it literally laid the groundwork for films to come in
Hmm.
the use of miniatures and models and touch ups in post. It was a masterpiece of filmmaking in that respect. And no matter what you might say about George Lucas's dialogue writing or creative decisions, the man is a visionary of actual filmmaking.
Yeah. And the stuff, the way he pushed practical with the early days of VFX and stuff, and finding that perfect balance, like, yeah, like you say, pushed cinema forward immensely.
Exactly. So now we get down to the really horrible bit
Hmm.
where we have to go through here and
They
work out what we're
both go
doing.
through.
Unfortunately, that's
And
not
a
how it
first
works.
ever.
um, Personal relevance.
I would have to go Return of the Jedi because without it,
See, that makes me want to do a bit of gamesmanship here because for me, I
okay,
think it's a draw. But if I vote Andor, that makes it a draw.
okay.
And then that gets me what I want, which is a draw in personal relevance.
Right.
But no, I'll stay true to myself. I think it's a draw, which would mean Return of the Jedi wins on personal relevance overall.
Mm-hmm.
How well it's aged is absolutely Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't think that's really up for debate, which makes it 2-0 Return of the Jedi. Rewatchability is Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
Just because it's film. Films are always going to beat TV
yeah,
in rewatchability. Story, I think, does go to Andor just.
yeah. I would give it to Andor.
I think the caliber of story that they managed to tell while working within the confines of a pretty well established universe
Yeah,
is so impressive.
and pretty low entry knowledge needed for Andor.
Yes, 100%.
So yeah, no, I would agree.
Acting, it
I
is
think.
definitely because of the nature of the show being a more serious tone that allows the acting to be so phenomenal.
Mm,
But I cannot, in good faith, after watching the Andy Serkis and Stellan Skarsgård and everyone else's
mm,
performance in Andor, say that Return of the Jedi's acting is as good as.
yeah, no, I think those two monologues alone kind of sell it for me.
Yes. Which makes it 3-2 Return of the Jedi. Coming down to cinematography. So, my view on this
Mm,
is that it's a draw. Because while, yes, Andor is more beautiful and looks better,
yeah,
without Return of the Jedi, filmmaking is not what it is today.
yeah.
And Return of the Jedi, even the original version, if you are lucky enough to see it somewhere, still holds up insanely well for something made in 1983.
Mm-hmm.
So I am of the opinion, yes, Andor is gorgeous and is far more beautiful than most television you will watch.
Mm-hmm.
Return of the Jedi is compared to things of a similar time, even sci-fi films as early as the mid 2000s, Return of the Jedi just blows it all out of the water.
Yeah.
So I think that's a draw for me.
I would be okay with that being a draw.
which would mean Return of the Jedi goes through as a 3-2 winner, which
Which
I
I'm.
can make my peace with.
Oh yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah. It is one of the few instances where I'm like, I really don't want to win it here at all. Because it really just it feels wrong to cast Andor aside, but at the same time,
We're coming up to
it's
the end
Return
here.
of the Jedi.
We're
Yeah,
also
exactly. This
late
is a
into the
quarter
bracket.
final.
Yeah. This
Like
isn't
this
round one.
is yeah, this is a
Yeah.
late matchup.